welcome to Language Activity 2. So we're going to carry on thinking about the theme of language, thinking about trying to develop some skills, thinking about getting to know people, and enjoying these team meetups. So here's just an example of another activity you might want to try out. So what does this activity involve? Interesting thing about language, I think I say the word so too much. Right. What we're going to do this time is try and develop your curiosity and question generating skills. Using your language, thinking about that generative capacity. Can I come up with questions? Remember, at university, trying to generate questions is one of the key skills. Not just know the answers to things, but try and think about things in a new and interesting and unusual way. I want you to try and think about this as a team. Can you spark ideas off each other and generate even more questions? Try and get as many questions as possible. The purpose of this activity is to generate questions. This activity is developed from what's called an organisation called the Right Question Institute. There should be a link on the meetups page, and it's specifically called the question formulation technique. You might have used it before. Sometimes they use it in schools, they definitely use it in organisations, and we use it at university. It's a really good activity to try and think about your ability to generate questions, and of course what happens from that point is then you try and think about how can we actually answer those questions, and you can do it with anything. Okay, so the question generation technique, you could choose anything. I don't know, a banana. You could say banana, and then you say, right, what questions does that get you to think about? What questions can you generate about that topic? That is called the question focus. In this case, it's a banana. And you could then say, okay, try and think of as many questions about bananas. So you could go where do bananas grow? How big are bananas? Are there different variations in bananas? Which country eats the most bananas? What happened if I only lived on bananas? What deficiency would I have? You could start thinking about all sorts of different things about what is the biggest banana that's ever existed, and what the medicinal properties of bananas, what happens if you eat banana skins, what are the best dishes you could make out of bananas, are bananas scientifically interesting, how similar am I, is it 50% to a banana, genetic makeup? There's all sorts of questions you can just generate from just thinking about a single object, and that object is the question focus, and that's what we're going to get you to do in this activity, and we're going to do it through understanding wikis in Microsoft Teams. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that in a second. Let's go through the instructions. What you're going to do is you're going to open up a wiki and you're going to test typing on it so you all can see how you do that, and you're going to do that within your Teams channel. And the question focus for this activity, if you want to choose this activity, you can choose a different question focus if you want, is teamwork sucks. Okay, so I want you to, and I'm not going to give you ideas, I just want to say that is the question focus. It's not a question, just say teamwork sucks. What are the questions you can have about the focus above? So there's your focus, and I want you to, what I want you to do as a team, what I'd like you to do as a team, is to try and think about how you can generate as many questions about that focus as possible, and start typing them in, and you'll see how you develop a wiki, and you'll see how you can use a wiki. So you're going to try and develop some things collectively. Don't refine these. Quantity is the key thing that we're interested in here. That's the king, okay, or the queen of this activity, is to try and think about getting as many questions as possible. So don't think they're trying to think of the best question. We'll get to that in a minute. Then, when you finish generating those questions, what happens is actually other people's questions go, oh yeah, what about that question? What about this question? So keep generating as many questions. When you feel like you've reached a point of saturation of enough questions, or you've run out of the energy to think of any more questions, then go back and say, okay, which of these are the best questions? Which do we think are the three best questions about this kind of issue that I have just put there? What would be the three best questions you could ask about that? And make some decision on that. So the rules, remember, ask as many questions as you can. Don't stop to judge or discuss or answer them. Write down every question is stated so you can talk about it. You can just type. If some people want to just carry on typing and not discussing, they can do that. If some of you want to talk, and again, this is a way that teams can work and riff off of each other in terms of questions, then do that. Just try and make sure that you type them down as they are stated. If someone says a statement, then try and change that and orientate that into a question. If you think, you kind of think about something in a statement term, or that something that isn't a question, do that. And remember to number the questions, so then you know how many you've got. You can do some variations on this. You can see how many you can generate and share with your program team. Which team in these groups do the most, came up with the most questions based on that question technique. When you're finished, perhaps you could discuss how you might answer those questions. If we were going through this in a more formal setting, we might kind of go on to that next stage of you've identified your top 3. What would be the process of answering those questions? How could we actually design a study to answer those questions? Or what information might we need to answer those questions? Does that exist? Or would we have to generate some new information to try and answer that question? This is a key aspect of thinking in university terms about generating questions, generating new knowledge, generating ideas that can generate then different ways of finding out things. The purpose of doing research at universities. In terms of choosing your right question, why don't you just say everybody's got 5 asterisks, 5 stars that you can allocate, and you can put all 5 on one if you think it's a totally top question, or you can put 5 on 5 separate questions, or you can put 3 on one and 2 on another. You know the variations in 5. Okay, so just do that, and then you'll see how many stars. That will give you an indication of the best question. You don't have to discuss it and come to an agreement verbally. You can use stars as language, okay, and that tells you something about it. So there are different ways you can think about generating which might be the best question. Traps, remember, people start judging and think, oh, it's a stupid question. Don't worry about it. There may be obvious questions. Some of those questions may be replicated or repeated. There may be lots of variations on the same question. So if I talked about bananas, you can think about the biggest, the smallest, the heaviest, the most dense, the brightest orange, the darkest of, I don't know, whatever colour they get, sort of dark browny colour, I don't know, are they green or whatever it is. All variations on the theme of thinking about size and shape and colour. You can see how they're all under that banner. So there may be lots of questions under a similar thing. That's okay. But then try and think about something different, a different way of approaching the topic, a different way of thinking about the question. What other ways could we do that? And it's likely that that will spark some other thinkings. But don't judge. Don't think about judging. Okay, so we're now going to show you how to generate a wiki in Teams. Okay, so the way to generate a wiki in Teams is to go to your Teams site. So this should be familiar with you now. Let's just make them a little bit bigger here. So you can see these are the teams. You should know now which team you're in. If you don't know which team you're in, you go to your list and go to team. If there's no one in your team, why don't you join another team? You know, have a chat with some other people. That's quite a good thing to do. Right, so you're in your team. And the way you generate a wiki, we've talked about adding links here. So you might already have some different links up here, but you can add other things. So I'm going to click on add here, and this time I'm going to go to, not a website this time, I'm going to go to a wiki, this one here. And I'm just going to call that whatever you want. QFT, that's the technique we're using, question formulation technique, but we could call it whatever you wanted. And it's going to generate this wiki within this team. And it will set it up. It will take a little bit of time to start with. And then you've got a wiki that sits here. So you can have, in wikis, you can have different sections. So I can add new pages. So this could be my first page. I'm going to call it, couldn't open that section. Okay, well that's nice. Right. Okay, page 1. And I could do all of my ideas if you want to do so. You could put Paul's ideas. Can't type, got a big microphone in my way. Let's move that out of the way. Paul's ideas. And then I might put all of my content in here, and someone else might have Jane's ideas. So I did it with my sister. Okay, so I'm going to add my ideas here, and if I was working with my sister, she might add her ideas here. And so she can type her things in here, and we might have some other things here. This is a really good way to do anything that you want to do in a wiki. So you might have key links to etc, etc, etc. And we can put in all sorts of things within this page. Remember, we can do all things like editing a page. I'm not going to go through how to edit a page, hopefully you know that, but you can add web links, you can do this. So actually having a wiki for all sorts of things is actually a really useful way to collaborate together, to share knowledge, to have a sense of shared information within your team. So for the purposes of this, it's just a QFT. So I'm going to just put questions, because that's going to be the key thing here. I don't want these key links now, so I'm going to get rid of that. But we can move these things around, and then we'll have all of these ideas. And I might end up actually adding a new page, which is best questions. And then at the end, when we've gone through, and this has been Jane's questions, and I've given 5 stars to this first question because she's only got one question and I loved it. I didn't give any stars to mine. I've given 4 stars. Let me give her 5 stars. So you can see how I've gone through the exact ideas, and then we're going to replicate the key best questions here. And if but again, just some other things with wikis, there's all sorts of things you can do. You can move, if you wanted Jane's to move up, or if you wanted this one to be eventually at the top after we've added all of our questions, we're going to put the best questions questions at the top. You can even, if you want to, have a conversation about things that I've put here. So I don't need it. So I'm just going to say, this is a great question, or whatever it might be. And so that is then linked to this particular thing that I can then look at. That hasn't come out, but you get the idea. Why didn't that start? Oh, there we are. Okay, so it's just taken a bit of idea, but that'll take me exactly to it. So that's the conversation, and this conversation probably exists in your main page as well. So you can see the conversation around this in the main page. All those things get linked into there. So this is the QFT. These are the questions. These are the pages that we've got within there. These are the people's ideas. But it's up to your team how you want to structure that. That's, you know, your wiki. You can do it in the way that you want to do it. For this activity, we're just going to be generating some ideas. So hopefully what you'll see is other people populating their ideas, their questions. You could do those not necessarily by person. You could do questions about this, and structure it in all sorts of ways. Get playing around with the wiki, and you'll get the idea. Get generating questions. Hopefully that all kind of makes sense. And so you would have generated some questions, you'd have put them in the wiki, you would have prioritized those questions in terms of your top questions, and you may have even had a discussion around those questions. You may have even begun a discussion about the question focus. So that is how you use the question formulation technique, how you use wikis in MS Teams. Have fun, play around with it. No question is too stupid. So just practice generating questions, being creative, sparking ideas. You know, when you see someone else give a question, one of the benefits of a team is that you will then get inspired to say, oh yes, I hadn't thought of that. So that idea only originated because one person came up with it and then you responded, and then you can respond. This is the collective wisdom of teams. So trying to work together can be good. And really beneficial to our collective knowledge. So, good luck with this activity. I hope you get some good learning about how to do these things, both the techniques for learning and the techniques for using Teams. Have fun.